What's up, guys? So today I'm going to make a video about kind of which foods fall into which macronutrient categories, and how some of them are protein sources, but they're also carbohydrate sources, and kind of how to structure your meals in a way where you're still hitting your protein goals, you're still hitting, the amount of fats that you need to be having and things like that. Just giving you a little bit more knowledge about what foods kind of fall into which categories and which ones are kind of hybrids, if you will, just to give you a better idea of what those foods are so that you can learn how to structure your meals kind of around them in order to hit whatever goals that you have. So I'm going to turn my phone around. Okie dokie. All right, so looks like a lot, but so over here we've got the fats. Saturated fat is going to be dairy, animal fats, fatty cuts of meat are going to be considered saturated. Coconut oil, cheese, the monounsaturated fats are going to be nuts, seeds, olive oil, avocados. Polyunsaturated fats, fish oil, hemp seeds, peanuts, chia, flax, things like that. So those are all sources of fats, kind of gradient like that, different types. Proteins. The main sources of proteins are going to be lean meats, or I guess the highest per gram source of protein is going to be lean meats: chicken, venison, bison, beef, fish, different things like salmon, cod, mahi, grouper, tuna, things like that. And then carbs. So there's different types of carbs. This is kind of where it gets confusing for some people. Simple carbs are going to be more refined, more processed. So things like cereal, soda, fruit juice, bagels, muffins, sugary desserts, ice cream. These are all very simple processed carbs, generally higher in sugar as well. Starchy whole foods are going to be like whole grain breads, ideally whole grain pastas, rice, brown rice, things like that, potatoes, sweet potatoes, oats. Those are whole foods that are going to be less processed, on the less processed side than these. Also starchier. And then you have the fruits and vegetables. So fruits and vegetables are carbs, which is confusing to a lot of people because they say, oh, well, I can have my broccoli, and because I have broccoli, I can have a potato. When in fact, as far as macros go, they are both carbs. Different types, because this is going to be higher in fiber and digest in your body differently than a white potato does. But nevertheless, for the sake of for the conversation about macros, they are both carbs. So these are going to be high fiber fruits and vegetables. So zucchini, cauliflower, broccoli, spinach, carrots, apples, berries, different types of beans, things like that. And then we go and we have these two little categories. So eggs are a source of protein, cottage cheese is a source of protein. However, they're also sources of fats. So when you're having eggs, whole eggs, obviously, not egg whites, because egg whites are pure protein. The egg yolks is where the fats come in. So we're talking about whole eggs and cottage cheese. So when you're trying to get a certain amount of protein in, choosing eggs versus egg whites, which is going to be only protein, choosing eggs is going to also contribute to your fats for that meal. It's going to be both, okay? Same with this, carbs. Beans, tofu, peas, things like that. Beans are a source of protein, yes. However, they also are a carb. They have both. So if you're using beans as your main source of protein in a dish, you have to be aware of also how many carbs you are putting in that dish as well. So if we go back to down here, typically when I work with clients, and this is going to be different for different clients depending on what your protein goals are, or depending on what your goals are, whether it's aesthetic goals, health goals, focusing on balancing hormones, things like that. It's going to be different, but this is kind of the ranges that I normally will start people with and then move on from there. Typically for proteins, when you're structuring a meal, you want to have at least like a palm size full of protein. So that's about 3 to 4 ounces of protein, meaning like lean meat protein. Okay. Usually I try to aim for 20 to 25 grams of protein per meal. Have that 4 meals a day. You're at about 100 grams of protein a day, which is a good starting place, a good goal. Also really hard for a lot of people to do. So keep that in mind. Carbs, again, it could be any of these things. And then fats is going to be this. When we talk about fats, it is higher calories per gram. So typically you're going to have a smaller portion on the plate of fats, like it's going to look smaller, versus a protein, which is going to be a larger portion on your plate, just because the calorie difference is going to be different. So let's just say, for example, you're making breakfast, okay? You want to get, say, 20 to 25 grams of protein. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can have, and you want to have a little bit of everything. Ideally, this is obviously an ideal situation. People have breakfast on the go, and people have, different lifestyles that may or may not allow this on a day-to-day basis. But in an ideal world, this is kind of what I would think. Typically for me, I'll do some type of eggs. What I like to do is, because I like the taste of the egg yolk when I do like scrambled eggs or something, I'll do 1 to 2 full eggs, and then also kind of ranges. It just would depend on, what you have, but egg whites enough to give me, 25 grams of protein. So it's probably about half to 3/4, maybe 1 cup of egg whites mixed in with an egg. It just depends. It's been a while since I've measured out egg whites, but so you mix that together. That's your protein. And so you've got the eggs, scrambled eggs, egg whites, whatever. And then I would pick a fat. So usually either like a little scoop of like guacamole or some cheese sprinkled on top, one of those 2 things. Again, you don't really want to have too much of, you don't want to pick an avocado and cheese and then cook it in coconut oil and then add some peanuts on the side or almonds, or like that's a lot of fats for that one dish. So pick avocado, eggs, avocado. All right, now what's carb are we going to do? Are we going to put it on toast? Are we going to have some type of spinach, tomato, broccoli saute with it, making like an omelet? You could do that. You could have, a sweet potato with it as well. Or you could, have a little bowl of oatmeal on the side. So there's different things that you can do, but when you're structuring your meals, being aware of kind of these 2 and these 3, kind of the hybrid protein sources, is really important, because if you say I'm going to have 2 eggs and there's my protein, yeah, you're getting protein, but the amount of protein you're getting relative to what you probably should be getting is going to be minimal. In addition to that, if you have 2 eggs and then you put cheese on top and have avocado toast with it, you're going to be very heavy in the fats range and the carbs range, and your protein is going to be very minimal, which is what I see a lot. Let me turn this around now. Ooh, there we go. I can't really see myself, so hopefully it's on my face. So that's something I see a lot of, is a lot of people are just unaware of kind of the variabilities of protein, and also not really aware of how much you should be eating per meal. And so if you're doing like some type of lean meat, you should have a full palm size per meal. And then carbs, say you're going to do vegetables or potatoes or something like that, about a cup. So, half cup to a cup, depending on what it is going to be your carbs. And then your fats are going to be minimal. So maybe the size of a golf ball, depending on, again, what it is. But just visually on the plate, that should be about what it looks like. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to, reach out. Let me know if there's any questions that you have, if this was helpful. And I think that covered pretty much everything. So hopefully you guys can take that, learn from it, and, use it to your benefit.